is a web developer and what are his duties? An interactive artist at heart, a web developer is someone who is so deeply motivated to produce things. A web developer's canvas is a user's web browser. A web developer's job is to use the fundamental building blocks of the web, like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, to create something complex like a web page. Much like how a curious child enjoys building toys by connecting Lego blocks and then feels a similar joy in taking things apart to see how they are made. Not to worry, all of these terms, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, will be covered soon. A web developer's other responsibilities include identifying flaws with a website's functionality, understanding how something works by reading the code that powers it, and making adjustments to resolve any difficulties. That effectively makes web developers the internet doctors. Websites and web applications are mostly what we mean when we talk about the internet. What distinguishes the two at this stage, you might be wondering as an eager aspiring developer. A website is typically either one page or a collection of pages. Modern websites, however, are much more than that. Consider, for instance, your Google Docs as an example. When used, its attractive interface closely resembles a desktop application like Microsoft Office. Websites this complicated are frequently referred to as web applications. Today, it is required of a web developer to be able to build and use online apps. However, the majority of people conflict the terms, so don't get too caught up in it. Types of web developers. There are different types of web developers. Their duties means they focus on different areas. These include front-end developers, back-end developers, and full-stack developers. Front-end developers use HTML and CSS to implement web page designs. They check that the forms and buttons are functional and that the website appears good on various devices. Back-end developers build the framework of the web application. They create the logic of the code that processes each user input, such as what should happen when a user clicks the sign up button after completing a form. Full-stack developers work on both the front end and the back end. They can transfer stacks and switch capes depending on the issue at hand. This manual contains more information on the distinctions between front-end and back-end development. In addition to system architects, AI, machine learning, and security engineers, there are numerous other specialized professions in web development. Many professionals in these professions start by having some broad web development expertise, since these roles call for more specific understanding of one or more of the aforementioned forms of development. What skills do web developers need to have? The web is made up of three things: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which we'll be learning more about over the coming days. Together, these three building blocks, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, define the content to be displayed, instruct a browser how to display that material, and make the content interactive. An expert in these three technologies is a web developer. They have the ability to read and modify other people's code. They are able to identify and fix bugs which are defects in current code. A web developer may occasionally start from scratch on a new project, that is a new website, or may need to improve an already existing website. A typical day for a web developer includes bug fixes, creating new features, also known as enhancements, and web pages, and also collaborating with other developers to brainstorm solutions to issues. Don't let all of these specifics overwhelm you. You'll quickly see that they are all closely related, and mastering one of them automatically improves your skills in a few others. What's the job outlook like for web developers? Overall, extremely good. Web development jobs are expected to increase by 13% between 2018 and 2028, which is substantially faster than the average for all occupations. The rise in popularity of mobile devices and e-commerce will fuel demand. Being a web developer now is a terrific opportunity because businesses are thriving and pay web developers above average earnings in much part of the world. A web developer can obtain a remote job more easily than many other professions due to the nature of the work. As a result, it allows everyone, regardless of where they are physically located, access to the global employment market. What we'll learn in the next 5 sessions. Without a practical project, no web development training is complete. The first project you will complete in this course will be a customized portfolio website, which will be built utilizing the TreeWeb building blocks of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Having these under your belt makes learning additional languages and tools much simpler. Pay special attention to the fundamentals because a weak foundation causes a lot of confusion in the long run. Additionally, I'll provide you with the tools you need to publish your website online so that you can share it with your loved ones. Today, we will begin by gaining a bird's-eye perspective of the web development industry. In addition to discussing the resources we utilize in this course, we will also write some HTML. We will write more HTML and HTML components on the second session. And we will also start working on our portfolio website's basic layout. On the third session, we will create some CSS to make our website responsive to mobile devices, allowing it to be seen on PCs, tablets, and smartphones. The fourth session will include a deep dive into advanced CSS and the addition of amazing effects to our page. The fifth and last session will be spent teaching us how to create simple JavaScript. We will also examine form validations and other standard JavaScript programming components. This is basically how this course is structured. Every web developer uses two tools, which we will require for this course: an editor for writing code, a web browser to view the website we're creating. Although you can use any text editor or web browser for this course, Google Chrome and Visual Studio Code are my top recommendations. You can download Google Chrome by Googling Chrome, and you can download Visual Studio Code by checking on Google for Visual Studio Code. These are free tools. It's crucial that you are aware of and comfortable using your equipment, just like any excellent craftsman. So let's take a quick look at what we've got so far. Google Chrome. Google Chrome is a web browser. Google Chrome may or may not be what you use to browse the internet. We can see web pages like the one you're reading this text on. Web pages using a web browser. We'll write and modify our code, then run Google Chrome to see the outcomes. Visual Studio Code. Popular text editors like Sublime Text, Visual Studio Code, etc. are used as development environment. A text editor is a piece of software that serves as a text editor. It resembles the built-in text editor on Windows, but it adds extra features like code highlighting to make coding and debugging easier for us. Now it's your turn to make your first website. We will now perform our first development task, which will be writing our first text for a web page using the tools that we downloaded and installed in the previous phase. For this, HTML will be used. Prior to beginning the process of generating our first page, let's quickly discuss HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Hypertext is just text that has the ability to bounce between different pages. You have used hypertext if you have ever clicked a link on a page. Try google.com. Markup is a means to organize content so that we can distinguish between distinct text blocks. Language is, well, a language. The only difference between real-world languages like English and German and computer languages is the strictness of their syntax. We can structure our page and the info on it using HTML. We can concentrate on appearance and functionality after we have a framework and data to work with. I will stop talking about theory now. Let's launch Visual Studio Code and get started.